Hey everybody, it's your bro, hope you're doing well, and in today's video I'm going to teach you guys everything you need to know to get started working with PHP. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. If you would like to be notified if I release new courses in the future, be sure to subscribe, because I kinda release them randomly. That is all. PHP is a server-side scripting language. It's used to build dynamic web pages. It runs on a server, not the user's web browser. Although haters say PHP is dead, it's still used on 70% of all known websites. I don't know, that doesn't sound dead to me. Many developers prefer PHP for its speed, simplicity, and flexibility. It's a popular choice for small businesses and freelancers, especially since in the news lately you hear about layoffs in the tech industry. PHP was released in 1995. It was originally an acronym for Personal Homepage, but that was later changed to PHP Hypertext Preprocessor to reflect the language's evolution. In fact, PHP was never intended to be a new programming language. It grew organically and out of control until it became the behemoth that it is today. Fun fact, the mascot of PHP is an elephant which is named Elephant, PHPphant. I don't know. How I would describe the basics of PHP is as follows. A browser sends a request to a server, PHP on that server processes that request, then the server sends HTML back to the browser. Our server running PHP can even communicate to a database, then back to the web browser. PHP is most commonly used with relational databases such as MySQL, Postgres, and Oracle. PHP can be written alongside with HTML. Before beginning the series, you'll want to have a solid foundation on HTML. You will need to know MySQL, but that won't be until about video 20. For your web server, I recommend XAMPP. XAMPP is a cross-platform web server solution stack. It's basically a software suite. It contains an Apache server, MySQL, and PHP. You'll also need some sort of text editor. Where are you going to write the code? VS Code tends to be the most popular nowadays, and that's what I use for my own personal projects. We'll write our code with VS Code, then run our code on our XAMPP server since we can't run it on a web browser. I'll show you how we can download both the XAMPP server and the VS Code text editor. Now we will begin the installation process of a server that we can execute PHP code within. Go to this URL, apachefriends.org. Like I said before, PHP code is executed on a server and returned to a web browser. Click on one of the relevant download links for your operating system. I'm running Windows, I will download the Windows version. Okay, for me, the installation process has started, and it's done. So let's open it. For setup, we're going to click Next. All we really need is MySQL and PHPMyAdmin. It looks like PHP is already selected for us. Then Next. Remember this file location. My folder containing all of my XAMPP files is located in my C drive. Next, you can select a language. I'll pick English. Next, and give it a minute. Do you want to start the control panel now? We might as well. And finish. Here's the control panel for my XAMPP server. We will start the Apache service. If everything works, the Apache module is highlighted green. That means it's working. If you ever need to stop this module, you can hit the stop button. Let's start MySQL as well. And our MySQL server is working. If you see any red text within this log, that means there is an error. If you run into any problems, just check to see what that error was. But everything for me is running fine. This control panel will run behind the scenes. I can close out of it, but it's still running, which is important. Hey, this is Bro from the future. I forgot to mention in this video that if you ever shut down your computer, you will have to open up the control panel again and restart these services. Yeah, I forgot to mention that, so be sure to do that. Now that our XAMPP server is downloaded, we will need that VS Code text editor. I'm assuming that some of you have that downloaded already, but if you don't, here's how. If you need a text editor, I recommend Visual Studio Code. If you're interested in downloading this text editor, head to this URL, code.visualstudio.com. I'm going to click this blue download button. Select the correct download link for my operating system. I'm running Windows, I will select this one. Then we will run this executable. Accept the license agreement. Yes, I did read it that fast. You do have the option of selecting a destination location. I'll keep it as the default. Next, next. I'll create a desktop icon, then next. And install. we might as well launch VS Code, then finish. I have VS Code open along with a modern web browser. I'm using Google Chrome in this series. We're going to create a new file within our XAMPP folder. So let's open a folder. Remember that file path for the XAMPP server? That's where you're going to look. For me, that was in my C drive. Go to XAMPP. Under htdocs, we're going to create a new folder. New folder. I'll name this folder website to contain my website stuff. Then I will select folder. Within my website folder, I'm going to create a new file. I will name this file index.php. The reason that I'm naming this file index is because that is the default for a home page. So we now have a PHP file. In VS Code, if you're receiving a warning that states cannot validate since a PHP installation could not be found, we need to validate the executable path of the PHP executable found within our XAMPP server. To do that, we're going to find our settings file. It's a JSON file. PHP validate executable path. Add it in the settings JSON file. Let me maximize this. Next to PHP validate executable path, we need to find the file path to the PHP executable. Again, within my C drive, within my XAMPP folder, go to PHP, then copy this file path for the executable. I'll right-click, go to Properties, copy this location, close out of this window, paste that executable path, then add php.exe. Then these may have to be forward slashes. Let's save. On Windows, you can press Ctrl S to save. Close out of these settings, and that warning goes away. I also recommend a few extensions. The first extension is PHP IntelliFence. It should be this one. It gives you access to a few tools that are useful for PHP development. Let's install that plugin. Then look up the live server extension. It offers a live reload feature. Then lastly, PHP server. It allows you to serve your project with PHP. Those are the three extensions that I recommend. All right, we are now ready to get started. In a web browser, to access your XAMPP server, you can type localhost as the URL. This will bring you to the XAMPP dashboard. We would like to access the website folder of the XAMPP server. So let's add localhost / the name of that folder, website. Our PHP code will execute on the server and be returned to this web browser, whatever the output is. To write some PHP code, type $!PHP. Wherever our PHP code ends, type $!. Our PHP code will be between these two angle brackets. To display a message, you can type echo, either single quotes or double quotes, then a semicolon at the end. A semicolon is kind of like the period at the end of a sentence in English. I will type a message. I like pizza. To save, you can go to the top, File, Save, or use the shortcut, which I'll be using. So for me, that's Ctrl S. If I were to reload this web page, it displays my message. I like pizza. To make your life a lot easier, we can add a live server extension to your web browser. Currently, I'm using Chrome. To add a live server extension, I'm going to go to Settings, Extensions, open Chrome Web Store, then search Live Server. And that should be this one. Add to Chrome. Add extension. Let's close out of these tabs. I'm going to go to Extensions, select Live Server Web Extension, enable Live Reload. We'll need the actual server address as well as your live server address. This URL is the actual server address. If you're on a Mac, it may contain a port number such as 8080. So let's copy this address, go to Extensions, then add the actual server address. Now we need the live server address. To find this, we can go to VS Code, press this Go Live button. There should be a new tab that pops up. Copy this address. That is the live server address. Then we will paste it within the live server address of this live server web extension. Then press apply. You may need to restart your web browser as well. All right, that was localhost/website. You know what? I don't just like pizza, I love pizza. If I were to save this file, it should update automatically. See, within our website, it now says, I love pizza. Let's add a second line with echo. Echo, double quotes, add a semicolon to the end. Let's add another line. It's really good. The output is all on one line. To add a line break, within your set of quotes, you can add a break tag. I love pizza. It's really good. To add a comment is used as a note for yourself or other developers. All you have to type is double forward slashes, then some message. This is a comment. Our comment is not displayed as output. It's mostly just used for notes. For a multi-line comment, you would type / asterisk. That will begin a multi-line comment. This is a multi-line comment. The end of our PHP script is currently green. That means it's being included within this multi-line comment. Wherever you need your multi-line comment to end, you would type asterisk, then /. The end of the script is blue again. And you can see that this multi-line comment isn't being displayed as output. Now, the cool thing about PHP files is that they can contain HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and, well, of course, PHP. So I will also include some HTML code within this PHP file. So in VS Code, to generate some boilerplate code, you can type ! and then tab. We now have some HTML markup within our PHP file. Within the body of our document, I'll add maybe a button. I'll create a button to order a pizza. I should probably precede this button with a line break. So there's our button. It currently doesn't do anything, but that's just a demonstration that you can include more than just PHP code within a PHP file. All right, everybody, so that is an introduction to PHP. In the next video, we'll discuss variables. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, please let me know by smashing that like button, leave a random comment down below, and subscribe if you'd like to become a fellow bro. Well, hello everybody, welcome to Lesson 2. Today I'm going to discuss variables in PHP. A variable, think of it as a reusable container that holds data. We give that container a name. That is the variable name. There's different data types we'll discuss. They include, but are not limited to, strings, integers, floats, and booleans. There are still more than this, but these are a few of the basics for beginners. Let's get started. To declare a variable, you type a $, then a unique variable name. I'm going to store a user's name. A unique identifier could be just name. I will set this variable name equal to a string of text. So place your string of text within a set of double quotes. Add a semicolon to the end because we always do that. Why don't you enter in your first name? Then to display this variable as output, we can type our echo statement, then add the variable name. So type $name, semicolon. Let's save. And there is our name, rendered as HTML. The data type of this variable is a string. It's a string of text, and it can include spaces. Add a space followed by your last name. As output, we're displaying my first name and my last name, all as one long string of text. If you echo a message directly, that is known as a string literal. I will display a message such as, hello, then I want to add this variable name. The easiest way to do that is to add a set of curly braces as a placeholder, and within the curly braces, add your variable name. So $name. Hello, whatever your name is. Let's add a few more variables. How about a food variable? What's a food you like? I like pizza, of course, which we learned from the last video. Hello, name. I'll display another message. Echo, you like, add our placeholder, our variable name, food. Let's save. I'm going to disable this. Page is not in Dutch for some reason. Our output is all on one line. I'm just going to add a line break. Hello, bro code. You like pizza. What's another example of a string? Maybe an email. Let's declare our variable, which we will name email. Add a set of quotes, semicolon to the end. fake@gmail.com. So let's add another line break. Let's echo. Your email is, add our placeholder for a variable, then our variable name, email. Your email is fake@gmail.com. That's the string data type. It's just a series of text. Your text can contain numbers, such as fake123@gmail.com. So even though these are numbers, we treat them more as characters. We can't use these for any sort of math. That's where our next data type comes in. Integers, whole integers. An example of a whole integer would be somebody's age. Let's say that I'm 21. Age equals 21. I'm not 21 anymore, but I like to think that I still am. The data contained within this variable age is an integer. We don't have any quotes around this number. I will echo my age variable. Echo, you are our variable age, years old. Let me add a line break here. There, you are 21 years old. An int is simply a whole integer. You know, somebody wouldn't be like half a year old, like 21.5. An age would be a whole number. Another example of a whole integer variable could be users. Let's create a variable named users, and there are maybe 2 users online. You wouldn't have half a user. Users would be a whole number. Let's echo the amount of users. There are, add a placeholder, our variable users online. There are 2 online. After the variable users, let's add the word users. There are 2 users online. One more example of a whole integer could be a quantity. You wouldn't have half a product, you would have a whole product. Let's create a variable named quantity. I'll just set it to 3. Okay, let's echo. You would like to buy our variable quantity items, then a line break. You would like to buy 3 items. Okay, those are whole integers. Let's discuss floats next. A float is a floating point number. It's a number that contains a decimal portion. These variables are ints, integers, they're whole numbers. An example of a float could be a grade point average. Maybe my grade point average is 2.5. So let's echo your GPA is, then our GPA variable, then line break. Your GPA is 2.5. I think we're getting the hang of this. I'm going to speed things up. Another float could be a price. With American currency, a price contains dollars and cents, with the cents being a decimal portion. Suppose a pizza is $4.99. Let's echo your pizza is, I'll add my price variable. Your pizza is price. Line break. Your pizza is $4.99. I'm going to add the dollar sign before $4.99. But we have a problem. PHP is getting confused because we precede our variable names with the dollar sign. Undefined variable, $4.99. If you would like to display a dollar sign as output, you need an escape sequence. I will precede my dollar sign with a backslash. Then it works just fine. Let me add your. Your pizza is $4.99. So that's another example of a floating point number, a float. Another could be a tax rate. Tax rate. I'll make up a tax rate, like a sales tax rate. 5.1 sounds good. Let's echo the sales tax rate is tax rate. Oop, I'm forgetting a dollar sign. Tax rate percent. Then a line break. The sales tax rate is 5.1%. Those are floats, floating point numbers. They're numbers that contain a decimal portion. Integers are whole numbers. The last data type we'll cover are booleans. Booleans are either true or they're false. It's like a light switch. It can only be on or off. So, what are some variables that could be considered booleans? What if somebody is employed? They either are employed or they're not. Employed equals true. Another could be online. Is somebody online or offline? Maybe a user's offline. I will set that to be false. What about for sale? Something is for sale or it's not for sale. I'll set that to be true. Now with booleans, when you display them as output, you don't see true or false. Rather, this is what you see. Let's echo online status, colon, then I'll add my boolean variable online. So online is false. Online status, and then nothing appears. Boolean values, when you output them, if it's false, it doesn't display anything. However, if online was true, that will output a 1. 1 means true, 0 means false. However, we won't display 0. Nothing is displayed for false. Usually with Boolean variables, we don't normally display them as output. We use them internally within a program. We might use these within an if statement or a loop, which we'll discuss in the future. But at this point, you should be aware of the existence of Boolean variables. In summary, a Boolean variable is either true or false. I'm going to get rid of these echo statements. You can mix and match variables when you display output with echo. I will add 2 variables this time. Here's a hypothetical situation. You own a pizza restaurant, and somebody places an online order for a given amount of pizzas. You have ordered, let's add our variable quantity, x, then our variable food. You have ordered 3x pizza. Let's add an s to the end to make it plural. You have ordered 3x pizzas. Then let's calculate a total. What I'm going to do now is declare a variable, but I'm not going to assign it a value quite yet. We will calculate a total. Total equals null. Null means no value. We'll add a value later. After displaying our message, you have ordered quantity x food. Let's reassign our total variable equal to our quantity times, to use multiplication, you use an asterisk, our variable price. So now our total should contain a number. Let's output it. Echo, your total is, let's add our variable total and see what we have. Ooh, I need a line break. I'm forgetting about that. You have ordered 3x pizzas. Your total is $14.97. So I need to add a $sign, or you can pick some other unit of currency. However, PHP is currently confused because we're preceding our placeholder with a $sign, so I need to use an escape sequence. Your total is $14.97. Now, in my program, if I were to change the quantity, well, this total is going to be updated. 4 pizzas is $19.96. If I were to change the price, that would also be reflected. Now the total is $23.96. Alright everybody, so those are variables. They are just a named container for storing reusable data. There are a few different data types. Strings, which are a series of text. Ints, which are whole integers. Floats, which are floating point numbers. And booleans, which are either true or false. In the next topic, we'll have more practice with arithmetic in PHP. And well, those are variables in PHP. Hello everybody, so in today's topic, I'm going to be discussing some basic arithmetic in PHP. I'll divide this video into different sections. First, we have arithmetic operators, then the increment and decrement operators, followed by operator precedence. Let's begin with arithmetic operators. In my example, we have 3 variables, x. X will equal a number like 10. Then we have y, which I'll set to be 2. Then z. We'll assign z a value later. I will set that to be null. If I would like to add x and y together, then store the result within z, we'll have to use some addition. I could write something like this. Z equals our variable x plus our variable y. Then I will echo whatever z is. So 10 plus 2, that's 12. So that's addition. I'll go through these pretty quick. They're fairly straightforward. So 10 minus y would be subtraction. X minus y, store the result in z. The result is 8. Now multiplication, that is an asterisk. 10 times 2 is 20. Division is a forward slash. 10 divided by 2, that is 5. To raise a base to a given power, you use double asterisks. 10 to the power of 2 is 100. 10 times 10 is 100. Then we have the modulus operator. That will give you the remainder of any division. X modulus y. Well, 10 divides by 2 evenly. The remainder is 0. If y was 3, imagine that we have a group of 10 students, and they need to break into groups of 3. There's going to be one student that's remaining. So the percent sign, the modulus operator, gives you the remainder of any division. It's really helpful for determining if a number is even or odd. You would just say modulus 2. If the remainder is 1, that number is odd. If it's 0, then it's even. So those are basic arithmetic operators. Now we'll cover increment and decrement operators. I have a variable which we will name counter. I will set counter to be 0 to begin with. If I need to increment this variable by 1, as if we're counting, normally I would have to write an expression such as this. Our counter equals our counter plus 1. Then let's echo our counter variable. So the result is 1. This can be cumbersome to write. A shortcut you could do if incrementing a variable by 1 is replace this part of our expression with plus plus. Take the variable, then add plus plus. That will increment your variable by 1. Plus plus is the increment operator. For decrement, you would use minus minus. Our counter is now at -1. If I were to set our counter to 10, after decrementing, it's now 9. Use plus plus to increment, minus minus to decrement. You can increment by a given value too. If I would like to count by 2's, let's set counter to be 0. Instead of plus plus, you would write plus equals, then some number. Counter plus equals 2 will increment my variable by 2. Plus equals 3 would be 3. On the flip side, to decrement by a given value, you would use minus equals some number. So 0 minus equals 2 will decrement my variable by 2. Minus equals 3 would be, well, 3. So that is the increment and decrement operators. Lastly, we have operator precedence. Given a complex arithmetic expression such as this example, in which order do we solve each part of this expression? We would begin with parentheses. Beginning from left to right, if there's anything within parentheses, we would solve that first. For example, with my expression, let's echo whatever the total currently is. So the total for me is 2.999. Beginning from left to right, solve anything within parentheses first. We currently don't have any parentheses. Then comes any exponents. So beginning from left to right, look for any exponents. We do have 5 to the power of 6. Let's see what that is. 5 to the power of 5. Do it a third time, fourth time, fifth time, sixth time. 15,625. Beginning from left to right, solve any multiplication, division, then modulus, modulo. Is that the right term? So we have addition, subtraction. Here we go. We have multiplication. 3 times 4, that's 12. Then we have division. 12 divided by 15,625 is 0.000768. Then lastly, addition and subtraction. We have some addition. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 minus this number, 0.000768, is our result. 2.999232. That's operator precedence. If you have a complex equation, solve anything within parentheses first, then any exponents, multiplication, division, modulus, then lastly, addition and subtraction. All right, everybody, in conclusion, we have discussed arithmetic operators, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, exponents, and modulus. Increment and decrement operators. You can take a variable, add plus plus to increment it, or minus minus to decrement it. Then lastly, operator precedence. And well, everybody, that is basic arithmetic in PHP. Hey again, everybody, it's me, and in today's topic, I'm going to explain the get and post variables in PHP. Get and post are both special variables. Technically, they're super global variables, but that's a topic for another day. Just think of them as special variables for now. These variables are used to collect data from an HTML form. If you have an opening form tag in HTML, you can use the action attribute, then send some data to some PHP file, whatever you list here. There's two different methods, get and post. They each have their own advantages and disadvantages, which we'll discuss later. For the time being, before our PHP script, let's create an HTML document. In VS Code, to do that, you would type ! Then hit tab. Then be sure to follow our HTML document with a PHP script. Then I'm going to open up a web browser. In our HTML document, we're going to create a form. A user is going to type in a username, a password, then to log in, they're going to hit a login button. Let's create that. We'll need a label to begin with. We'll need to close the label. I'll add a line break. The label will say user name. Then we'll add a text box. Use the input tag. It's a self-closing tag. Add a line break. Within the input tag, we will set the type to equal text because it's a text box. Then we will set the name to be user name. Let's copy our label and our text box. Paste these two lines again, but change username to password this time. The type will be password. The name will be password. So you can type something into your username. If you were to type within the password box, it should be hidden, which is good. Then lastly, we'll add a button. We'll use a self-closing input tag. The type will be submit. It's a submit button. The value is the text on the button. Let's set that to be log in. So we have a button, but it currently doesn't do anything. We will enclose all of our elements within a form tag. Be sure to open it, then close it. I will indent all of this. Within my opening form tag, I will set the action attribute to be a file in which I want to send this data to. I will send this data to the PHP script of the same file. So my file is index.php. I will list that here, index.php. If you had a separate PHP file, you would just change the file name to reflect that, or the file path. Then we will set the method attribute to be either get or post. We'll begin with get. So let's type in a username, make up a password, and this still doesn't do anything. Within our PHP script, we're going to utilize the get variable because we're using the get method. Let's echo, then type $_ the word get. So get is a special type of variable. It can hold more than one value. If you're familiar with arrays, it's technically an array. Within get, we have both a username and a password. I would like just the username. To get just the username, after the get variable, add a set of square brackets, then within a set of quotes, type in the name of the information you're getting. I would like the username. Let's see what happens. I'm going to save, type in a username, make up a password, log in, and there's my username. Now let's do this with the password as well. Echo get password. So let's refresh everything. I'll make up a username, type in a password. There's my username, there's my password. I'm going to put my password on a new line. I need a line break. There's a couple different ways in which we can do this. You can use some string concatenation. One way to do that is to type dot, followed by a line break within quotes. I'll do that for the second line as well. So that would work. My preferred method is to do something like this. I'm going to surround my get variable with quotes, then add a set of curly braces around our get variable. Then add a line break. Bro, make up a password, log in, there we are. If using the get variable and you need to add a line break, this is my preferred way, although there's more than one way. Use whatever suits you. Now with get, we have one problem. If we were to take a look at the URL of this document, when using the get method of a form, any data sent over to a PHP form is appended to the URL. username equals bro, and password equals pizza123. There's no security because we're appending some sensitive information, such as a password, to the URL. That's where post comes in. I will change the method to post. Let's see what happens. I'll type in my first name, make up a password, and log in. So we have an undefined array key. If you're using the post method, let's change get to be post. Make up a username, type in a password, log in. There's my username, there's my password. And if I were to take a look at the URL, my sensitive data isn't appended to the URL. The post method is more secure than get, but they each have their own advantages and disadvantages. With the get method, data is appended to the URL. It's not secure. I wouldn't pass any like usernames or passwords using a get method. There's a character limit. However, with the get method, bookmarking a page with values is possible. Get requests can be cached. Get tends to be better for a search page. Now with post, data is packaged inside the body of the HTTP request. It's more secure than get. There's no data limit. Pages involving a post request can't be bookmarked, and the requests are not cached. Post tends to be better for submitting credentials, like a username and a password, any sensitive information. So if security matters, use post. If it doesn't, get might be better. Now let's cover an exercise. Let's clear our PHP form. Then within the body of our document, we will create an order page for a restaurant. We will begin by creating a form. We'll need a pair of form tags, then be sure to close it. Within my opening form tag, I will set the action attribute to be a file or a file location. I will send this data to my index.php file. For the method, let's use post. For my order form, let's create a text box for a quantity. I'll create a label. I'll close it right away. Let's change the text to quantity. Then I'll add a line break. We'll add a text box. Input. The type is text. The name will be quantity. We'll use the input tag. Set the type attribute to be submit. Then value equals, how about total? We're calculating a total. Now within my PHP script, let's say we have a food item. I'll create a variable, item equals, make up some food, like pizza. We'll need a price. Price equals, make up a price, $5.99 sounds good. Then a quantity, whatever the user is going to type in. That is found within the post variable. $_ post. Add a set of square brackets, semicolon. Within the square brackets, I would like the quantity. Now, this is a personal choice. What I like to do is that if I'm accessing the get or post super variable, I like to store the result within a local variable. So I'm going to create a quantity variable. Quantity equals whatever our quantity is from our HTML form. I find caching one of these values within a local variable more convenient to work with. So let's echo a message, like an order total. You have ordered, let's use our quantity, to T, X, what's our item? Pizzas. Item, I'll add S, because it may be plural. Then we'll calculate a total. Echo. You know what? Let's create a total variable as well. Total, I'll set that to be null because we'll assign a value later. Total equals quantity times variable price. Then we'll echo your total is, add a placeholder, our variable total, then I will precede our placeholder with the $sign. But we need to use that escape sequence. All right, let's save everything. Enter in a quantity. I want 3 pizzas. Oh, we need a line break as well. You have ordered 3X pizzas. Your total is $17.97. And if I were to look at the URL, we're using the post method, so our quantity is not going to be appended to the URL. If I were to use get, let's replace post with get. Do that here as well. I'm going to type in 3 pizzas again, hit total. I can change the URL to reflect a different quantity, like maybe I want 30 pizzas, then resubmit. You have ordered 30 pizzas. The grand total is $179.70. That's one of the reasons why post is more secure than get. You can change the URL to reflect a different value. All right, everybody, so that is both the get and post variables in PHP. Hey, if you're enjoying my series so far, let me know by smashing that like button, leave a random comment down below, and subscribe if you'd like to become a fellow bro. Hey everybody, in today's topic, I'm going to explain a few useful math-related functions in PHP that you might be interested in. We'll need an HTML document followed by a PHP script. We will enter in some user input via an HTML form. So let's create a form in our HTML document. Open it. Close it. We will set the action equal to be our index page, index.php. For the method, let's use post. Let's create a label. Label. Close it. The label will be X. We'll have a user enter in a number. Then let's add an input tag. It's a self-closing tag. The type will be text. The name will be X. Then we need a submit button. Input type equals submit. For the value, let's say total. It's a total button. That's good enough for now. If I'm using the post super global variable, let's say we need X, type post, add a set of square brackets, we would like the value of X. I will cache this value within a local variable within my PHP script for convenience. Variable X equals whatever value for X that we receive. Just so that we're sure that everything's working fine, let's echo whatever X is. Echo X. So currently there's nothing in there. Let's type 3, hit total, and there's our number, X, which is 3. So here's a few math-related functions you may be interested in. The first is the absolute value function. Let's say we have a total variable as well. I'll declare this variable, but not assign it quite yet. I'll set that to be null. Then later on in my program, we can assign total a value. Total equals, to find the absolute value of a number, type ABS for absolute value, followed by a set of parentheses, semicolon. Whatever number or variable you put within this function, ABS, it will return the absolute value of that number. We can either put a number in here or a variable. Let's put in X. So variable X. Then I will echo our total. So I'm going to save. I'll type in -4. This should return +4, which it does. -100.123. 100.123. That is the absolute value function. Let's cover a few more. We have the round function. We can round a number. Let's assign total equal to, use the round function, then we will pass in our variable X. So let's save again. Refresh that. 3.14 rounded is 3. 3.99 would be 4. Now to always round down, you can use the floor function. So let's copy this line. Replace round with floor. We will always round down, so 3.99 rounded is 3. 4.99 rounded down is 4. There's also ceil, meaning ceiling, which will always round up. Replace floor with ceil. Let's save. Refresh everything. 3.14 rounded up is 4. 4.14 rounded up is 5. For this next example, we'll need another number. Let's copy our label and our text box, paste it, replace x with y, here and here. We'll need two numbers this time. Let's get whatever y is. So y equals, within the post superglobal variable, we are looking for y. We can use the power function to raise a base to a given power. Let's take our total variable equals power. We'll need two numbers or two variables. What is x raised to the power of y? So what is 2 to the power of 3? That would be 8. 2 to the power of 4 is 16. What about 3 to the power of 3? That is 27. 3 to the power of 4, that is 81. That is the power function. You can raise a base to a given power. Then we have square root. I'm going to put that here. Total equals SQRT, add a set of parentheses. Let's find the square root of x. So we don't need y in this case. What is the square root of 100? That is 10. 144, that is 12. That's the square root function. We will need three variables. Let's create another label and a text box. The third number will be z. Be sure to change the name too. Then we will create one more variable. Variable z, post z. Then we have the max function. Total equals max. Whatever values or variables you place within the max function will give you the greatest value. What is the maximum number between variables x, y, and z? So let's save. I'll refresh that. 1, 2, 3. The highest number is 3. 30, 20, 10. The highest number is 30. Then we do have the min function, which will give you the minimum. What is the minimum number between 10, 20, 30? The minimum is 10. 3, 2, 1. The minimum is 1. That's the min function. The next function is an unusual one. It is the pi function. Total equals pi function, so add a set of parentheses. This will print 3.14 and the remaining digits of pi. If you ever need pi, you can use the pi function. The next one's pretty useful. It is the random function. Total equals rand. This will give you a completely random number. I think up to just over 2 billion. Within the parentheses of the rand function, you can list two numbers for a minimum and a maximum. If you're rolling a 6-sided dice, the minimum would be 1, the maximum would be 6. So now we're generating a random number between 1 and 6. We can either raise the minimum or raise the maximum. For a random number between 1 and 100, within the rand function, the first digit is 1, the second digit is 100. So we have 10, 85, 17, 84. If I were to raise the minimum, let's say 90, we'll generate a random number between 90 and 100. Maybe you could use this for a game. Now we're going to go over an exercise. For this exercise, we will have a user enter in a radius, the radius of a circle. Using PHP, we will calculate what the circumference would be, the area, and the volume if that radius is for a sphere. So we will need to accept some user input. We'll do that with an HTML form. So within our HTML document, let's create a form, then close it. The action will equal our index.php file. The method will be post. We will need a label. Close it. The label will be radius. Let's add a text box. We need a self-closing input tag. The type will be text. The name will be radius because we're accepting a radius. Then a submit button. Input type equals submit. For the value, let's say calculate. That's all we need. Within our PHP script, let's create a local radius variable. We will get the value from this text box via the post superglobal variable. Let's access the post variable. We are looking for the radius. And now we have a radius. We'll declare a circumference variable. I think that's how to spell circumference. That will be null. To calculate the circumference of a circle, we can follow this formula. Circumference equals 2 times pi. Pi, we can use the pi function, times our variable radius. Then let's echo. Let's say circumference equals, add a placeholder, then insert our variable circumference. Let's say that this is in centimeters. Then I'll add a line break. Maybe the radius is 5. I'll calculate that. The circumference is 31.4, and we have a lot of digits after. There's one thing I'm going to change real quick. I'm going to add a line break after our form. For the radius, let's say it's 10. I'm going to hit calculate. Here's our circumference. 62.83 and some change centimeters. We can use the round function to round to a given digit. I would like to round to the second digit after the decimal. Before we display our output, let's reassign circumference equal to, use the round function, then pass in our circumference. But I'm going to make one change. Normally the round function will round a number to the nearest whole integer. To round to a given digit, add a comma, then that digit place. Let's round to the second digit. So our circumference is 62.83 centimeters. Let's also calculate the area and the volume. We'll need an area variable. I'll set that to be null. To calculate the area, let's set area equal to, we'll need the pi function, times our radius to the power of 2. We can use the power function, enter in our radius to the power of 2. Then we can round our area. Area equals round. Within the round function, enter in your area. We would like to round to the second digit after the decimal. Then we will display the area. Area equals our area variable. I think technically that should be centimeters squared. So let's save. I'll enter in a new radius. Okay, so if our radius is 15 this time, I'll calculate that. With the radius of 15, the circumference is 94.25 centimeters. The area is 706.86 centimeters squared. Now we'll calculate volume if the radius is for a sphere. Volume equals null. Volume equals, here's the formula. 4 divided by 3 times pi function times our radius to the power of 3. We can use the power function. We are raising our radius to the power of 3. Then we will take our volume and round to 2 decimal places. Volume, comma, 2. Then we will display the result with echo. Volume equals, add a placeholder, our volume, centimeters, I think that's cubed technically. If our radius is 5, The circumference is 31.42, the area is 78.54, and the volume is 523.60 centimeters cubed. All right, everybody, well, I thought that would be some good practice with some math functions. Now we're a little more comfortable using them. If you would like a copy of this code, I'll post it in the comments section down below. And well, those are some useful math-related functions in PHP. Hey, welcome back everybody. In today's video, I'm going to discuss if statements in PHP. With an if statement, we have a condition. If some condition is true, we can do something, we can run some code. However, if that condition is false, then we don't do it. Here's a situation. Suppose we have a website, but you have to be 18 years or older to enter. We can write a program to check somebody's age. Let's say we have a variable age. Age will equal, make up a number, 21. To write an if statement, I would type if, then I'll need a condition within parentheses. What are we checking? Let's check to see if our variable age is greater than or equal to 18. Then after the set of parentheses, add a set of curly braces. If this condition is true, we can execute some code. If it's false, we skip over this code. So if our age is greater than or equal to 18, let's echo, you may enter this site. So I'm going to save, run this program. You may enter this site. What if this condition was false? Maybe my age is 15. In our if statement, this condition is false. That means we do not execute this code. We skip over it, as if it never even happened. If you would rather do some other code, at the end of your if statement, you can add else. Then add a set of curly braces. If this condition is false, then skip over this code and execute the else statement. Instead, let's echo, you must be 18 plus to enter. Let's save. And here's our other message. You must be 18 plus to enter. If I were to change age to 21, something that's above or equal to 18, well, we execute the first statement, this portion of our if statement. You may enter this site. If this is true, do this. If not, do this instead. Between if and else, you can add else if. Else if, add a set of parentheses and a set of curly braces. If our condition is false, we would then check any else if statements before resorting to the else statement. Let's also check if age is equal to 0. Double equals is the comparison operator. You could check to see if two values are equal. You don't want to use a single equal sign because that is the assignment operator. PHP thinks you're assigning age to be 0. Use double equals for comparison. If somebody's age is 0, then let's echo a different message. You were just born. I will set variable age to be 0. Save. You were just born. This condition was false. We skip it. This condition was true, so we execute it. We never reach the else statement. However, somebody types in -1. Well, then we resort to the else statement because both of these conditions are false. Let's change our else if statement. Let's say else if age is less than or equal to 0. Let's change this message. That wasn't a valid age. -1 is not a valid age. Just to be funny, what if we said you were too old to enter this site? I'll add another else if statement just to demonstrate that we can add multiple else if statements. Else if age is greater than or equal to 100. Then we will echo, you are too old to enter this site. If I were to set age to be 101, the result states that you may enter this site. The reason that we're executing this if statement and not this else if statement is because Starting from the top, we check the if statement first. If it's false, we continue down the line until we reach else. Age is 101. Since this statement is technically true, we would execute this code, then skip everything else. The order of your if and else if statements does matter. I'm going to move this section of code to the beginning and make it the if statement. First, let's check to see if somebody's age is greater than or equal to 100. I will change this section to be else if. And that should work. You are too old to enter this site. You do need to pay attention to the order of your conditions. I'll give you another example. If statements also work with Boolean variables and values. We have a variable, adult. Adult will equal a Boolean value of either true or false. Let's set that to be true. With your condition, you can check to see if your variable is equal, use double equals for comparison, true or false. If adult is equal to true, then we will echo, you may enter this site. Adult is true. You may enter the site. If adult is false, then nothing happens. So let's add else, echo, you must be an adult to enter. You must be an adult to enter. Now there is a shorthand if you're using the comparison operator followed by a Boolean value. You could just write the Boolean variable itself. That is also valid, and that's my preferred way of using Boolean variables within a condition. If adult, do something. So let's set adult to be true. You may enter this site. If it's false, you must be an adult to enter. So that is the second example. Let's go over an exercise. We will create a program to calculate somebody's pay, including overtime. We will need 3 variables. Hours, I'll set that to be 40 to begin with. They're working full-time. A rate, as in a rate of pay. This person is making $15 per hour. And then a weekly pay. I will set that to be null to begin with. Depending on somebody's hours, they may or may not make overtime pay. Or if they work 0 hours, they don't receive any pay this week. First, let's calculate their weekly pay if they work 40 hours or less. If hours is less than or equal to 40, then we will calculate our weekly pay with this formula. It's only hours times their rate of pay. Then at the end, let's echo, you made, add our placeholder, this week. Within our placeholder, let's display the weekly pay variable. Pick your unit of currency. I'll use American dollars. I'll need to add an escape sequence. 40 times 15, I think that's 600. You made $600 this week. If we worked 20 hours, then we make half of that, $300. What if somebody doesn't work this week? You made $0 this week. What if somebody enters in a negative amount of hours, like -1? Well, somebody made negative money this week. Let's write a condition to prevent that. Let's add an if statement, then change this statement to be an else if statement. If somebody's hours are less than or equal to 0, then let's set weekly pay to be 0. Just in case somebody enters in a negative amount of hours, because you can't work a negative amount. Even if somebody enters in a negative number, like -1 or -10, our message still displays 0, which is what we want. Lastly, let's calculate overtime pay. We'll do this within an else statement. Here's the formula. Let's set weekly pay equal to, the first 40 hours are going to be at the standard rate. Let's take our rate times 40. then we will add, within a set of parentheses, we need to calculate the overtime pay. Maybe an employee works 50 hours this week. Let's take hours minus 40. I'm going to add another set of parentheses around this. Multiplied by rate times 1.5. Because with overtime pay, at least in the United States, I believe you make 1.5 times your pay, your hourly rate of pay. If an employee works 50 hours this week, their new weekly pay will be $825. That is an exercise involving if statements. And those are if statements in PHP. Hello friends, it's me again, and in today's topic I'm going to explain logical operators in PHP. There's 3: and, or, not. They're used to combine conditional statements. For example, if we have an if statement, we check a condition. Using these logical operators, we can check more than one condition if using and. If that were or, we can check if at least one condition is true. With the case with not, we can reverse a condition. If it's true, it's now false. If it's false, it's now true. More on that later. We can make our conditional statements a little more sophisticated with logical operators. Here's an example. We have a temperature. We would like to check to see if our temperature falls within a certain range. Let's say we have variable temp short for temperature. This will be in Celsius, because most of my viewers are from outside of the United States. In the United States, we use Fahrenheit, but use whatever works for you. Let's say the temperature is 25 degrees Celsius. Let's write an if statement to check to see if our temperature falls within a certain range. If temp is greater than or equal to 0, we'll start with one condition. Then let's echo the weather is good. Our temp is 25 degrees Celsius. The weather is good. What if my temperature was 100 degrees Celsius? Well, the weather is obviously not good, right? In fact, the weather is horrible. To make sure our temperature isn't above a certain number, we can use the and logical operator, which is a double ampersand. If our temperature is equal to or above 0, and our temperature is less than or equal to 30 degrees Celsius, then the weather is good. This statement is true, but this one is false. With the and logical operator, both conditions must be true in order for us to execute this statement. Otherwise, let's add an else clause. Else, echo, the weather is bad. So 100 degrees Celsius, that is not a good temperature. The weather is bad. What about negative 10 degrees Celsius? Well, the weather is still bad. 15? The weather is good. 15 falls within our range. 15 is greater than or equal to 0, and 15 is less than or equal to 30. Now, using the or logical operator, which is 2 vertical bars, at least one of these conditions needs to be true. If we're writing the same program using the or logical operator, this is what I would change. Let's say if temp is less than 0, or temp is greater than 30, then the weather is bad. Else, the weather is good. Let's change temp to negative 1 million. Well, the weather is bad. If our temperature was positive 1 million, I believe that's actually 100 million, well, the weather is obviously bad as well. If our temperature is 25, then the weather is good. With our temperature being this high, this statement is false, but this one is true. Using the or logical operator, only one of these conditions needs to be true. That's another way in which you can write conditions. You could use the or logical operator. Use whatever is best for your situation. Okay, let's set temp to something reasonable like 15. All right, now I'm going to discuss the not logical operator. Let's add a variable cloudy. This will be a Boolean variable. It's either true or false. Let's set that to be true. The temperature is 15 degrees Celsius, and the sky is cloudy. That's set to true. Using an if statement, if we're checking a Boolean variable, we could write cloudy is equal to true. But if we're working with Booleans, we can just shorten this to if the Boolean variable name. That's valid. If it's cloudy, let's echo it's cloudy. Else, echo it's sunny. Let me add one line break. Line break, line break, and I think we're good. The weather is good, it's cloudy. Using the not logical operator, we can precede our condition with an exclamation point. If this condition is true, the not logical operator will reverse it essentially. So if not cloudy, that means it's sunny. Else, it's cloudy. So it's cloudy. I will change cloudy to be false. It's now sunny. That's basically the not logical operator. It will reverse the state of your condition, meaning you can check to see if something is not true. Let's go over some practice. In this example, let's say that your country has elections. Let's assume that it's a democratic nation. In many countries, you have to be 18 years or older to vote, right? I'm assuming. Maybe we have variable age. Set this equal to whatever your age is. Let's say that I'm 25 this time. And we have a Boolean variable named citizen. And I will set that to be true. We're going to use the AND logical operator to see if we can vote. So with an if statement, if variable age is greater than or equal to 18, I'm in the United States. In order to vote, you have to be at least 18 years old. If we're at least 18 years old, and we're a US citizen, then let's echo you can vote. In my example, I'm 25, I'm a citizen, both these conditions are true, that means I can vote. Else, if one of these statements wasn't true, then let's echo you cannot vote. Let's say that I am 12 years old. Well, I cannot vote. I'm too young. Or if I was not a citizen, citizen is false. Well, I cannot vote either. Another way in which you could write this program is you could say, this is a little more complex, by the way. If age is not greater than or equal to 18, or you are not a citizen, then you cannot vote. Else, you can vote. I'm 18, but I'm not a citizen. I cannot vote. I'm 18, but I am a citizen. You can vote. I would probably stick with the previous example just because it's easier to read. But this is another way in which we can use the not logical operator and the or logical operator. Let's go over a last example, just so that we really get the hang of this. We're going to sell movie tickets. We will have some Boolean variables. We'll have a child variable. I will set that to be false to begin with. A senior, I will set that to be false. Then a ticket price, which I will set to be null to begin with. If somebody's a child or a senior, they get a discount. If child or senior, then the ticket price will be maybe $10. Else, ticket equals $15. That's quite a steep discount. Then at the end of our program, let's echo The ticket price is, I'll add a placeholder, add variable ticket, pick a unit of currency, I'll pick American dollars. Child is set to false. We're not a child, that's set to false. We're not a senior, that's set to false. The ticket price is $15, the standard. This is false, or this is false. That means we don't execute the statement. We move on to the else statement. If we were a child, let's set that to be true, then we get that discount. The ticket price is $10. If we set child to be false, but we're a senior, I'll set that to be true, we still get that discount. All right, everybody, point being, with logical operators, there's many different ways in which we can check conditions. There's and, or, not. Use whatever is best for your situation. Typically, there's more than one way in which you can check a condition. Well, everybody, those are logical operators in PHP. Hey, what's going on, everybody? So in today's video, I need to explain switch statements. A switch is a replacement to using many else if statements. Switches are more efficient and take less code to write compared to using many else if statements. Here's an example. I have a letter grade. A student's grade can be A, B, C, D, F. Or if their grade is invalid, we have an else statement that states that letter grade is not valid. Depending on what our grade is, we will execute one of many statements. If our grade is A, then we will echo, you did great. If it's B, you did good. C, you did okay. D, you did poorly. F, you failed. If we have a grade that isn't valid, such as pizza, well, that's not a grade. Pizza is not a valid grade. Using many else if statements is fairly inefficient, and it's a lot to write too. I would like to propose a better solution, and that is by using a switch, which is the topic of this video. To create a switch, we will type switch, add a set of parentheses, then add a set of curly braces. Within the parentheses of the switch, what would we like to examine? Let's examine our letter grade. Then we'll probably want to change our letter grade to something valid, like A. Within the switch, we're going to create cases. One case for each match that we're looking up. Type case. What are we comparing our grade to? Let's compare our grade to the letter A. Then add a colon. If our grade matches this case, we'll write some code. What do we want to do? Let's echo, you did great. After all of your code, add break to break out of the switch. This is the first case. Let's copy this case. Underneath it, after the break statement, let's paste it. Then we will have case B. You did good. Let's copy this again. Case C. You did okay. Then D. You did poorly. Case F. You failed. Our grade is currently an A. You did great. Let's test out case B. You did good. C. You did okay. D. You did poorly. F. You failed. What if we have a grade that isn't valid, like pizza again? Well, nothing happens. There were no matching cases. We simply exit the switch. If none of these cases match, you can add a default case. Type default. I can't spell it right today. If there are no matching cases, what are we going to do? Let's echo some sort of message. I'll add a placeholder. Our grade variable is not valid. So pizza is obviously not a letter grade. Pizza is not valid. There were no matching cases. Therefore, we resulted to the default case. The default case is kind of like the else statement. Now, the reason that you have break in here, let me demonstrate, is because you will break out of the switch. What if we were missing these break statements? Temporarily, I'm going to remove them. Let's say that our grade is B. You did good, you did okay, you did poorly, you failed, B is not valid. You need the break statement to break out of the switch. Wherever there's a match, we will execute the code followed underneath, then any subsequent code followed after. So be sure to include those break statements. Unless you want to execute every statement afterwards. In some cases that could be helpful, but not for this one. Let's go over another example. We're going to get the current date. I'll create variable date. To get the current date, we will use the date function. Within the parentheses of the date function, within a set of quotes, type L. Just to be sure it's working fine, let's echo our date for testing. L will give you the day of the week. Currently, for me, it's Monday. So let's place our date within a switch. We'll create a switch, parentheses, curly braces. We are examining our date. Then we'll need a case, Monday. If today is Monday, let's echo, I hate Mondays. Then break. So it's Monday. I will echo, I hate Mondays. So let's copy this case, paste it, change Monday to Tuesday. What can we say for Tuesday? It is Taco Tuesday. So currently for me, it's still Monday. Just for testing purposes, I am going to change our date after we get the current date. I just want to be sure that our switch is working. What if our date was Tuesday? It is Taco Tuesday. What if it's Wednesday? The work week is half over. Let's change our case to be Wednesday. The work week is half over. Thursday. It's almost the weekend. Let's change our date to be Thursday. It's almost the weekend. Friday. The weekend is here. The weekend is here. Saturday. Time to party. Time to party. Then Sunday. Time to... Let's relax on Sunday. Time to relax. It's optional, but we could add a default case if there are no matching cases. Let's echo. Our variable date is not a day. Let's change our date to something like pizza. Well, pizza is not a day. So I'll remove this line. Depending on what day you're executing this code, it will display a custom message depending on the day of the week. Like I said, today for me, it's Monday. So my message prints, I hate Mondays. Alright everybody, in conclusion, a switch is a replacement to using many else if statements. They're more efficient and take less code to write. I would recommend a switch if you're checking some value or variable many times over. And well everybody, those are switches in PHP. Hey everybody, in today's video I need to explain for loops. A for loop will repeat some code a certain amount of times. For example, I will display the word hello. Hello, then I will add a line break. I can write code once, then repeat it however many times that I want with the for loop. To create a for loop, type for, parentheses, curly braces, then place your code you want to be repeated within the set of curly braces. I would like to display the word hello a certain amount of times. That's the nice thing about for loops. You can write code once, then repeat it, but we'll need to calculate how many times we're going to repeat it. Within the parentheses of the for loop, we can write up to 3 optional statements, each separated with a semicolon. The first statement is that we can create a counter. It's as if we're assigning a variable. A common naming convention for a counter is variable I meaning index. I can set this equal to 0 to begin with. The next statement is a stopping condition. When this condition is no longer true, we escape the for loop. I would like to display the word hello 5 times. My condition will be variable I is less than 5. Once I is no longer less than 5, we will escape. The third optional statement we can use to increment or decrement our counter. After each iteration, I will increment I by 1, I++. This code will be repeated 5 times. Here we are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Instead of displaying the word hello, let's display our index I, then add a line break. I currently holds our counter. We set the counter to begin at 0, and it will stop when I reaches 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe we would like to start at 1, and continue as long as I is less than or equal to 5. Then we're no longer beginning at 0. We could change this condition to be 10. We will count up to 10. Or 100. We will count up to 100. When you increment your variable, you can increment by a different number, like 2. I plus equals 2. We are now counting up by 2s. 1, 3, 5, 7. If we change our counter to be 2, we'll start at 2, then count up by 2. Or maybe we can count up by 3s. 2, 5, 8, 11. Now to decrement, let's begin at 10. Our counter will be at 10. We'll continue this for loop as long as I is greater than 0. Then to decrement, take I, then add minus minus. So now we begin at 10 and decrement by 1 during each iteration. Or we can even decrement by 2s. I minus equals 2. So we begin at 10 and we're decrementing by 2s. So that's a for loop. You repeat some code a certain amount of times. There are 3 optional statements within the for loop. A counter we can declare, a condition, then we can increment our counter by a certain amount, or decrement. Let's go over an exercise. We will create an HTML form. In VS Code, hit exclamation point, tab, that will generate some HTML code. We'll create a form. The opening form tag will have an action attribute of our PHP page, index.php. The method, let's assign to post. We'll create a label. Label, close it. Enter a number to count to. We will add a text box, input, type. The type is text. The name will be counter. Then a submit button. Input type equals submit. For the value, let's say start. The user is going to type in a number to count up to. We'll need to get that value from the text box. Let's say variable counter. We will access the post super global variable. We would like our counter. Then we'll create a for loop. For, parentheses, curly braces. We'll need our index for our for loop. So variable I equals 0 to begin with. We're counting up. Our condition will be variable I is less than or equal to our counter. Then we will increment variable I by 1 during each iteration. During each iteration, let's echo whatever variable I is. Then add a line break. Let's see what happens. Let's refresh this. Let's count up to 10. I'll enter 10, press start, then we count up to 10. If you would like to exclude 0, we can set I to be 1. There we are, we have counted up to 10. Or I could pick a different number, like 100. Press start, we now count up to 100. Now what we're gonna do is count down from a number. Enter a number to count down from. We're gonna change our for loop a little bit. We will set our counter of I to equal the number that we receive, our counter variable. We'll continue as long as I is greater than 0, then we will decrement I. So let's save. You might have to refresh. Let's count down from 10. Press start, and here we are. We have started at 10, and we have counted down to 1. Or I can enter a different number like 100. So we start at 100, then count down to 1. So that's a for loop, everybody. You can repeat some code a certain amount of times. You only have to write it once, then repeat it however many times that you need. And well, everybody, those are for loops in PHP. Hey everybody, it's me again. Today I'm going to explain while loops in PHP. With the while loop, you can do some code infinitely while some condition remains true. It's very similar to a for loop, but with the for loop, we intend to do some code a limited amount of times. With the while loop, it may be infinite. There's a lot of overlap where you can use either a for loop or a while loop. Here's how to create one. Type while, parentheses, curly braces. Within the parentheses, we can set a condition. Let's say we have a counter variable. We will count up to 10. Keep doing this code while counter is less than or equal to 10. Another difference between a for loop and a while loop is that with the while loop, we don't have 3 statements. We just have 1. With the for loop, you can create an index, a condition, and there's another statement to increment or decrement. We don't have that with the while loop, so we'll have to set that manually. Outside of the while loop, let's say we have a counter. Counter will equal 0. While counter is less than or equal to 10, let's increment our counter by 1. Counter plus plus. Then let's echo our counter variable. Then add a break. So simple enough. That should be less than 10. There. We escape the while loop when this condition is no longer true. It's very similar to a for loop. Honestly, in this situation, I would probably stick with the for loop, because you're still doing something a limited amount of times. While loops tend to be better if you need to do something possibly infinitely. Let's say we have a stopwatch program. We don't know when the user is going to stop the stopwatch. We would need to keep on updating our stopwatch until the user presses stop. So we could write a program like this instead. Suppose we have a variable seconds to keep track of the amount of seconds. Then a Boolean variable named running. If our stopwatch is no longer running, if somebody hits the stop button, we will set that to be false. Our condition could be while running is equal to true. If this variable is a Boolean, we can just shorten this to while running. While our stopwatch is running, update the time or something. I haven't talked about the sleep function yet, but we can make our program sleep for a given amount of seconds. So let's pretend that we wait 1 second. Then after waiting 1 second, let's increment seconds by 1. Then echo the current amount of seconds. And I will add a break. I wouldn't recommend running this code. We're going to be stuck in what is known as an infinite loop. Our program has no way of stopping, and it might crash your computer. You can see that the time just goes on and on forever. So let's stop that. My computer might crash. This code is going to run forever because we have no way of escaping this loop. If you have a while loop, you'll want some way to break out of the while loop from inside of it. I'm going to create a stop button. I now have a stop button. Let's stop that before it crashes. Now, to escape out of this loop, I could write some code like this. I'm going to write an if statement. I haven't discussed the isSet function yet, but we can check to see if a button is clicked or not. I'm going to access our post variable, and I have created a stop button with the name of stop. If I click the stop button, then let's set running to be false. Then we can escape out of the while loop. Else, if the user doesn't press the stop button, then let's wait another second and update our timer. So this program is going to continue until I hit the stop button. And it broke. There, it stopped. What you should remember from this is that a while loop will do some code, possibly forever, while some condition is true. You would need some way of making your condition false. In this case, I just set up a button to stop the timer. There is a lot of overlap where you can use either a for loop or a while loop. If you need to do something a limited amount of times, use a for loop. If you need to do something a possibly infinite amount of times, a while loop might be better. And well, everybody, those are while loops in PHP. Why, hello again everybody. Today I need to explain arrays in PHP. Think of an array as a special type of variable which can hold more than one value at a time. In my example, I have 4 different variables: food 1, food 2, food 3, food 4. We have an apple, orange, banana, coconut. It can be very inconvenient to have to work with so many variables. It would be really nice if I could store all of these values in one place, which is what we can do with an array. Let's delete these variables. We will create a special type of variable, which is an array. To create an array, you'll need a variable name to begin with. Let's say foods. Foods equals, to create an array, type array, add a set of parentheses, then the semicolon at the end. This is a function, which we'll discuss more in the future. Whatever values you're going to squeeze into this variable, just place them within the parentheses. We had 4 variables: apple, orange, banana, coconut. Separate all of your values with a comma. There we go. We now have what appears to be a variable, but it's technically an array. It stores more than one value in one convenient place. If I was to echo my array, which I named foods, this is what happens. Warning, array to string conversion. We can't directly print this array. Instead, you would need to access one of the elements. An element is a given position within an array. Currently, we have 4 elements because there's 4 values. To access one of the elements found within your array, after the array name, add a set of square brackets, then an element number. With arrays, the first element has an index of 0. I would like the first element within my array, so the element is going to be 0. That will display apple, which is the first element in my array. Let's do this with the others for practice. Let's echo foods at index 1. I should probably add a line break, so let me do some string concatenation real quick. I'll add a line break. Do that here as well. We have apple, orange. Let's do this with the others. Foods at index 2 is banana. Foods at index 3, that would be coconut. What if I attempt to access an element that doesn't exist? We only have 4 elements. If I access our array foods at index 4, well then we have a warning. Undefined array, key 4. That is something you do need to pay attention to. If you need to display all of the elements of an array, there's an easier way of doing this instead of echoing every single element line by line. We can use a for each loop. For each, add a set of parentheses, then a set of curly braces. For each, take your array, foods, as. Now what we need is a temporary name for each element within the array. My personal naming convention, if I'm accessing a single element within an array, I like to take the array name and set the variable name to be the singular version. If we're working with foods, well, each element is considered a food. For every food in foods, if we were working with different values, let's say cars, my for each loop may be for every car in cars. But that's just my naming convention. So within this for each loop, I will echo each food. Then I'll add a break line. Okay, let's see what happens. Here are all the elements in our array. To display all of the elements in your array, a convenient way to do so is to use a for each loop. There are a lot of useful utilities related to arrays. To change one of the elements of an array, type the name of the array, then we'll list an index number. I would like to change the first element in this array to be a pineapple. Type the name of the array, followed by a set of square brackets. The first element in my array is 0. I will set that to equal a new value. Foods at index 0 is now a pineapple. Pineapple, orange, banana, coconut. There is a push function which will add a new element to the end of your array. Array underscore push function. Within the set of parentheses, type in the name of your array, comma, then a value. At the end of my array, I would like to add a pineapple. Apple, orange, banana, coconut, pineapple. You can add more than one value too. Let's add a kiwi as well. Apple, orange, banana, coconut, pineapple, kiwi. That is the array push function. You can add one or more elements to the end of your array after you create one. Then we have the pop function. Array underscore pop. Pop will remove the last element in your array. Place your array name within the set of parentheses. Array pop foods. Now we have apple, orange, banana. Our last element, coconut, was removed. Then we have shift, array underscore shift. Shift will remove the first element in your array. Then shift all of the elements over by 1. Within the set of parentheses, list your array name. We now have an orange, banana, coconut. Our apple was removed. It was shifted out of the array. We can reverse an array. Array underscore reverse. Place your array name within the set of parentheses. Now this isn't going to work. I'll explain why. Our array is still in the same order. Apple, orange, banana, coconut. This function returns a new array. We can assign the result to a new array, such as reversed foods equals the array reverse function. Then I could display this. Our array is now reversed. Coconut, banana, orange, apple. Otherwise, the array that's returned, we can reassign it to the same array, which is what I'll do. That does the same thing, if you would rather reuse the same array. That is how to reverse an array. We can count the elements in an array. I will echo, use the count function, place your array name within the function. Let me cut this real quick. We have 4 elements within our array. Use the count function to get the current number of elements within your array. All right, everybody, so that's an array. Think of it as a special type of variable that can hold more than one value at a time. It's a convenient way to store multiple values that are similar or related, in place of creating many different variables. It's a lot easier to work with an array than several variables. And well, everybody, those are arrays in PHP. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Today I'm going to explain associative arrays. It's an array where each element is a key value pair. For example, we can make an array where each element is a country, that's the key, and the value is a capital. A few other examples could be an ID and a username, or an item and a price. These would be examples of key value pairs. Here's an example. Let's start with a basic array. I will create an array of capitals. Capitals equals, we will use the array function. We'll begin with keys. Each key needs to be unique. I'll think of 4 examples. We have the USA, Japan, South Korea, then maybe India. Right now, capitals is an array. It's not an associative array. To change this array into an associative array, after each key, add an arrow. For readability, I'm going to place each element on a new line. It's not necessary, but it's a lot easier for me to read. Following the arrow, we will give each key a value. The value in this example will be each country's respective capital. The capital of the USA is Washington, D.C. Japan, that's Kyoto. South Korea, that is Seoul. India, New Delhi. We now have an associative array. It's made of key value pairs. If you need one of the values at a given key, we would then access our associative array, capitals, at index, then place your key within the set of square brackets. Let's find the capital of the USA. Then let's echo whatever the result is. And the result is Washington, D.C. If I change the key to Japan, we will be given the value at this key of Japan. To print all of the key value pairs of our associative array, we'll use a for each loop. Within the parentheses, we're going to write something a little different. First, we need our associative array. Capitals as key, arrow, value. This for each loop will loop through all of the key value pairs. Let's print them. Echo. I'll add a placeholder. Let's print each key and each value. Then I'll add a break line. Here are the keys, and here are the values. I'll add an equal sign before key and value, just so it's more readable. That's how to use a for each loop to loop through all the key value pairs in this associative array. To change one of the values, we need to access this array by a key. I'll change the capital of the USA to be maybe Las Vegas. Let's take our associative array. Then I would like to access, using square brackets, USA. Set this equal to some new value. The new value will be Las Vegas. When I run this program, the value at this key is now Las Vegas. That's how to update a key value pair. First, look up the key, then you can set the value equal to some new value. To add a new key value pair, we will access our associative array, add a set of square brackets, then place a new key within a set of quotes within the square brackets. Let's add China. China will equal Beijing. There's our new key value pair. The key is China, the value is Beijing. The pop function will remove the last pair in this array. Array underscore pop, we will pop our associative array, capitals. Our pairing of India and New Delhi is gone. That's how to remove the last pair in this array. The shift function will remove the first element. Array, shift, pass in your array. The USA and Washington, D.C. pair is now gone. It's shifted out of the array. If you ever need all of the keys in this associative array, there's an array keys function. Array, keys, pass in your array of capitals. This will return a new array. I will assign that to a new array. Let's name it keys. Then I'm going to display all of the keys within our array using the for each loop. So let's change this a little bit. We have an array of keys, and I would like to display as key. For every key in keys, let's echo each key. Then I'll add a line break. Here are all of the keys within our associative array. If you need the values instead, there's a values function. Array, values. I'll create a new array named values. For every value in values, print each value. And here are the capitals, all of the values within our associative array. You can flip the keys and the values by using the flip function. Array, flip, pass in your array within the set of parentheses. This function will return a new associative array. We can either create a new associative array or reassign it. I'll reassign our associative array. Then we need to change our for each loop again. So we have capitals as key, arrow, value. Then we will display every key and every value. Key equals value. Our values are now switched with our keys. The capitals are now the keys. The countries are the values. That is the array flip function. If you need to reverse the order of your pairs, you can use the reverse function. Array underscore reverse. Pass in your array. This will return a new array. I will reassign it. The order in which we originally placed these key value pairs is now reversed. India is now at the beginning. The USA is now at the end. Then if you need the amount of key value pairs, you can use the count function. Echo, count, capitals. Let me get rid of this for each loop to demonstrate. We have 4 pairs within our associative array. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, everybody, so it's time for some practice. I will delete everything but our associative array. We'll create an HTML document, so preceding our PHP script, using VS Code, I will type an exclamation point, then hit tab to create some sample HTML. We'll create a text box. A user is going to type in a country, hit submit, then we will return the value for that associated country, that capital. We'll need a form. Form, be sure to close it right away. The action will equal index.php. The method will be post. Let's create a label.